Okay, everyone, it's Morrison Globular back again with my second tutorial / walkthrough type video thing. Going to look at another new song, something I've been working on lately, which I maybe finished today. There's probably some more to do, but I'm feeling pretty happy with it. Been working on it with Chris Geoglyph as well, which is fun. He's been putting some flutes and helping me with some piano and stuff like that. So I thought that maybe what I'd do is similar to the last time, kind of go through the track, just look at see if there's anything interesting to have a look at so we can glean some information from it. And again, like last time, I need to give the disclaimer that I'm a really messy producer. I don't do things how they're supposed to be done. So, I don't know, these techniques, you might find something useful, but they definitely don't take them as gospel. Yeah, so with that out of the way. Let's play a few little clips of the track so you can kind of hear a few of the sections and get to know what it sounded like. So that's kind of the gist of it. I'm not going to show you the whole thing because it's new and I'm not sure what I'm going to put it out on yet. But again, apologies for the glitching audio. My computer just can't handle doing all this recording and stuff all at the same time. But let's just carry on as though it weren't there. So I guess the first thing, maybe I'll start with the drums again because that's kind of how I started this track, was by just kind of making a drum and a bass. It's not a drum and bass groove, but it's a drum and a bass groove together. For this, the drums are pretty layered and kind of convoluted. So I guess let's dive in, let's have a little look. Okay, so kick, what we got going on with the kick? Seems simple enough. Got two individual samples, one providing the main kick bass, and one providing click. Nothing particularly interesting going on with those. It's like an overall EQ. I guess I really wanted to just bring out the sub in it. And there was too much click. So like I say, I'm very messy. It's a really silly way of doing things. Maybe I should have shaped the kick before, but it's come out how I want. So what we got here. So I've got a feeling that beneath all this ridiculous layering, there might be me doing a really bad beatbox. Let's have a listen. There is. However, I've obviously already bounced it down. So I've recorded it and then processed it somehow. Sounds like maybe with a vocoder or something else. I don't think I still have that anywhere. No, so I just have to start with that as the source noise. It's not like I've got a lack of effects and sounds on this track. So let's see what they're all doing. I'm going to take this beat repeat off for a minute. So first up, just a kind of snappy compressor. I think these are actually just basic settings. I've just pulled the threshold down. I've left the makeup on. It's just giving a bit of click. And volume. Cut out all the lows, boosted some kind of high mids, and then I've got this vocoder on there. And I think basically I'm using that as a kind of formant filter, I guess. So I have the carrier enhance. There's a little button here which kind of just brightens up. It almost kind of, I don't know, compresses and boosts the high end. That's what it sounds like it does. Carrier is just noise, so that I don't have to route in a synth and all that kind of stuff. And I assume I just fiddle about. I've got the bands all the way down at 4, which is the lowest setting. I guess you can hear what that does. Not a ton of difference, to be honest. Okay, and flanger going. Just giving that constant kind of rising effect. Again, nothing too interesting there. Big, slow rate. Moderate feedback. So I've got this beat repeat here, which is, I don't think it's always on, but at this point it is. So I think it's just letting like the snare hits come through. Let's have a look. Yeah. And that's got a variation on the grid so that sometimes it's 30 seconds, sometimes it's 24s, whatever. Oh, it's not 24s, there's no triplets. But it's not a swung track, so triplets sound weird. Nothing too interesting with that. Got a filter on it. Got a massive shaping EQ here. I guess just bringing out some of the highs so they don't interfere too much with the actual snare and the hi-hats. Not really sure. Yeah, fell out of room. I probably just went through the presets, to be honest, because it's nothing particularly complex, just wanted a small space. Compressor, and I've got a widening ping pong delay as well. So you saw that in the last tutorial. It's really simple, very small delay time, 0 feedback, total dry wet, full spectrum, and that just kind of brings it left and right. And I think I might have, yeah. So one of the only issues with using the ping pong like this is sometimes it can feel like one of the stereo channels is dominating the other one, because essentially one of them is coming before the other one. So at the moment, I'm guessing the right channel is delayed by 16 milliseconds. So the left channel comes in first, and therefore it kind of gives prominence in your ear, even though they're the same volume. So sometimes what I do is I'll swap the stereo signal every now and then, just to kind of balance it out. You can't really notice it there, but maybe if I turn this off, you'll kind of hear. Yeah, I can definitely hear that. So yeah, that's a layer. Then we've got another layer. What's going on here? So this is a breakbeat that I think that I've chopped up. I think I might have chopped it so that I've got more quantization control. I'm not sure entirely why I've done that. Yeah, I mean, if you chop a breakbeat and slice it to MIDI, I hope maybe you know how to do that. It's fairly easy. If you find any piece of audio, you right-click on it, slice a new MIDI track, and that'll basically put it into a drum sampler like this, drum rack. And there's a few different algorithms. When you click slice to MIDI, you can choose different ways that it handles it, so it gives you different controls around here. And it's pretty damn useful. So that's kind of sliced it up. But normally, as it comes out, when they arrange the MIDI slices, it's not going to be this quantized. So I assume I've chopped it up, put it into the drum rack, and then quantized the crap out of it. And it sounds like I must have EQ'd it before I chopped it up, because that's, there's obviously no bass in there at all. So I think I'm kind of using this for the hi-hat groove, because it looks like I don't actually have a hi-hat track. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so it's mainly for the hi-hats, with the benefit of that kind of live-sounding snare, which is why I've cut all the bass out. Okay, so snares, what do we got going on? Okay, kind of complex breaky rhythm. Probably make more sense in context with the kick and the hi-hats going on. I can't imagine there's much more interesting going on there than just the actual pattern itself. Have a light flanger and widening again, which is interesting. Okay, that's kind of stupid. So I've got widening going on, but then afterwards I have selected only the right channel, making it mono again. I'm not really sure why I've done that. It's not particularly cool. Okay, so earlier on I'm not doing that. Okay, so I was kind of doing that same thing with the delay, kind of swapping back and forth earlier on, and I guess either I chose not to do it later, or I just forgot that I was doing it. No matter. I guess it just means that this signal is now delayed by 8 milliseconds, which is sometimes actually quite nice to have a slightly lazy snare. So whatever, I'm just going to leave it like that. Other than that, it's just about snare selection, I guess. So I've just... Oh, possibly. I might have even used the same kit as from the break, but without the EQing. I've sliced it up and then chosen snares from it. And then they've got the full spectrum. They've got a bit more bass, a bit more snap in them. And that would make sense. Yeah, and I think that I've got them all... the release is pretty short, so I can do short hits like that without it ringing out. Yeah, so if you drag them out, they're going to be longer, I guess. Yeah. That just, I don't know, it gives it a bit more control, and you can get kind of snappier, tighter things going on. We've got another snare. What's this one doing? Okay, it's super simple, so that's just giving some body. Again, this one was quite high, but this one's got like a much fuller body, and it's got a width to it. And it sounds like it's got a reverb in the actual sample, I think. Yeah, because there's not a lot else going on. I've cut off the very sub, boosted a little bit down there. So that's just helping to emphasize the actual snare hits as opposed to the kind of ghost note type things. That's almost it for this part. Got a tiny crash here, which I guess is actually more like a splash because it's a crash cymbal, which I've shortened. yeah, all together. I missed out these little bits. Yeah, okay, so yeah, we've got this piece, which is like, I guess there's more to it. Yeah, so I've just reversed a whole loop. It's got a little click on it, and then a reverse. Just kind of sucks up to the snare hit. And this one is another reversed piece. I mean, I would normally just kind of go through and find a random drum, which sounds like it'd be fun reversing. Try it, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll go to something else. And this one's got a big reverb on it. So again, this is just really emphasizing that snare hit, and I guess it's kind of interesting because the actual snare doesn't have reverb on it, but the reverse does, so the reverb is not a reverb from the actual snare, which, I don't know, I guess kind of sounds kind of cool. Okay, so that's kind of the main gist of the drum group. There's some other bits that aren't particularly interesting. So I've got like some crashes and stuff, but I think they're just literally samples, yeah, with a high pass, sorry. And a couple of shakers, which again I haven't done anything particularly interesting with. Some panning with the auto pan. Yeah, okay, let's move on to the bass, I guess. I think it's fairly simple. It's another bass that I've recorded, which is quite fun. I bought a new bass several months ago, so I've been having a lot of fun with it. I didn't manage to record it properly at first. I couldn't find the right sound, but I'm slowly getting there, thanks in part to asking Ott how he produces his live basses, and he recommended this only piece of hardware that I've got called the Drama LX20, which is an expander compressor, and I would put my bass through that before it comes into the PC, and you can see, I guess, the compression happening. So these little spikes are where it's opened up, then it's clamping back down, and that's really helped actually. So what have I got on here? Not a lot. Really simple sound. I was really pleased with that, actually. It was really hard to play that fast because I'm not a bass player, but I seem to get it pretty good. I don't think I've quantized any of it. Oh, I could be lying. No, it's as is, which is cool. I'm happy with that. Super simple EQ, so I've taken out some very subby bass, because this bass line isn't a sub line, you know, it's supposed to sound like a live bass, and the kick has got quite a lot of sub boom to it. And I guess I boosted some mid around here just to bring out a little bit of the clicky kind of noises. There's not a lot to that, and I've not even got any compression touching it. I'm just relying on the Drama, the hardware, to deal with that. Gong, standard, gong from a sample. Albeit with a lot of delay and reverb. The flute, so this is kind of weird. So this is my friend Chris, also known as Geoglyph, who you should check out if you don't know his work. Geogylph, I think. He makes a really nice side up. So he came around and recorded some flute for me. Did loads of takes, and I kind of chopped and chose some of the bits that I thought would fit best. So let's have a listen to the flute without any of the processing. Okay, so you get the idea. So something that I wanted to do was I wanted to use formant shifting on it, because I thought it sounded really cool, but it kind of turned out that when you formant shift it, there's not a lot of formants involved, or there's not a huge EQ spectrum, and the actual wave shape of the flute is fairly Sinoid, if that's even a word. So when you kind of shift through the formants, you kind of have patches where there's not really anything going on. There's not much signal to process. So it just sounds kind of quiet and weird. So I've done the old trick of chucking an OTT over the top, multi-band compressor, so that even in those quiet bits, it's pulling it all up. It's sucking the signal up, bringing the gain up, and then when it's louder, it's crushing it back down again. So there's a lot of flattening going on. Let's hear what just that is doing. So you can hear as a consequence of having that on there, you've got loads of breath noises and kind of dirt and stuff, which I really like. So I'm happy to leave that in there. And the tool I was using is a PRODUCTION auto pitch, which is pretty good. And it's got this nice form shift on it, which is nice. I'm not actually using the auto tune, as you can see. It's all of the keys are filled in, so all notes are being let through. Right, and what's going on here? I think this must be a gate, yep. So I have a 16th gate using this G8 dynamic gate. You can do the same thing with the Ableton gate. And so I've routed this to be sidechained or triggered by this MIDI track. If you're doing it in Ableton, I'm fairly sure you have to make an actual instrument on this track, like with the operator or something, really short attack and release, and then use the audio to trigger the gate. But with this gate, you can select MIDI in. So it's got a MIDI option here. In, you choose which note it's going to be. So this is all on C3. And then I've automated the dry wet of the gate, or rather I've mapped it, I believe. Yep, there we go. I've mapped that to this macro so I can kind of bring the gate in and out. And it looks like I've also mapped it. Yeah, I've also mapped it to the level of this delay. Not entirely sure why. Let's have a listen. Ah, that's right. So because there's kind of gaps in the actual signal of the flute, you know, it's stopping and starting, it's not continuously playing notes. I wanted, when I brought the gate in, I didn't want that to drop out. I wanted it to continue as a audible signal. So what I've done is, as I increase the gate amount, or the dry wet, I'm also bringing up the level of this delay, which is a simple third delay, which is then feeding to the gate as well. So even when there's gaps here, the delay is already delaying these parts here, so it's kind of filled in. And as I bring it back down to get to the clean signal, the ungated signal here, the delay is then also brought back down, so it's not sounding like there's delays playing and not interfering with the original signal. Or at least that's the idea. It looks like when I actually automated it, I didn't really use that as a feature much, but it still works. That's what I was going for. So what else? Valhalla vintage verb, which is very nice. Just doing a nice big hall kind of sound. Got this S1, the Waves S1 imager doing some panning effects. So I'm automating the panning and I'm automating the rotation. Don't ask me what rotation is because I don't actually know. Oh, hang on. The rotation is just the left right. Oh, Okay. What I was actually thinking of when I was saying I don't know, I was thinking of this asymmetry thing. I don't know how that works, but I haven't used it. I guess because I don't know how it works. Okay, so I'm automating both the width and the rotation, so we can kind of see these two in action. Even more, I'm automating this pan and that rotation and that width. I could not tell you why I'm doing all those things. Okay, I'm kind of lost with that one, sorry. This is a consequence of doing things randomly. Sometimes I forget the hell I was doing. Any other slightly interesting parts, I've got this kind of nighttime forest insect ambience going on, and I've put a redux on it, which is also mapped to a gain. So as the redux comes on, the gain goes down. Yeah, so at 0, we're at 0 decibels. The redux is off, and as I bring it up, the gain comes up. And I just kind of mapped that in the background. Just kind of adding a bit of filler, a bit of noise and interest. Yeah, not particularly interesting. Pretty easy. So what we got? Let's move to this noise here. So I actually threw this patch together really quickly, but I'm pretty happy with the sound. It's pretty much exactly the sound I was going for. It's pretty simple. Yeah, so it's in Serum. Let's take the rest of this stuff off for the minute. That's not being used. So it's just it's a vowel sound, so Sam speaks and it's going through the different vowels, and I've got this is automating the position, the wavetable position, so it's making different vowel notes on each note, and it's just one note going along at 16ths. So you can see that that's automating the wavetable position, but it's not going the whole way, because to add a bit of movement, I've got another LFO, which is also moving it, but much slower. So it doesn't sound like this is quite so repetitive, because this is moving what these do, because it's changing the kind of starting point. Then we have a low pass, just a 12. Giving that kind of emphasis on those notes, so you can kind of hear it rising and dipping, rising. And then for added interest, I think that I've got this going to the bend, which is just kind of like a wave shaper thing. Yeah, again, so that's on like a really slow LFO, just to kind of give it some evolving texture over time. This filter isn't doing anything. And a big phaser. Again, really simple. There's not a lot you can do with this without automation and whatnot. But it is a nice phaser. kind of softens it a little bit weirdly as well, which I kind of like. So then after that, got a bit of EQ. I've taken out some of the real highs because I didn't want it buzzing through and getting in the way of the break and the hi-hats and that kind of thing. Taking out the lows. And then again, contradictory, I've put a saturator, which is giving it some more buzz. But it's kind of a digital distortion-y kind of sound. I'm personally not really keen on the distortions in Serum, but I'm sure people do get amazing sounds out of it. Quite an extreme compressor with a very short release and a medium attack. That's kind of letting it really click through. This is one of my favourite effects. It's kind of hard to describe what it is. I don't really know what it is. Some kind of chorus compressor disperser thing. It adds a weird popping kind of noise, almost like a standard compressor, but I don't know how to explain it. It does weird stuff, and you have to tune it to like the place that you want it to be, so it's particularly useful for this noise because I'm only using one note, so I can find the kind of frequency that I want it. So you can hear it's quite kind of harsh and, I don't know, sharp, and this, I don't know, it softens it and gives it a pop. So off, on. So yeah, I can't really explain that, but I love it. Feel it going on later. That's kind of it for that sound. Nice and simple. And I've got these birds going on, which is quite fun. So it's a standard sample which I have put into beats, continuous beat mode again, which is kind of one of my favourite glitchy kind of things. Pitched it up to make that actually have an effect. And I've also just quantized any transients that it's recognising into eighth notes, just for fun, and it gives it more kind of stretching. It's not really doing much, to be honest. There's a lot of background noise though, so I had to put a gate on it because you just don't want this kind of stuff coming through constantly because it's just going to muddy everything up. So the gate kind of stops most of it. Giving it a fairly long release so that the birds don't sound unnatural. If you have it short, it's going to be weird. Yeah, so that just kind of lets it ring out a bit more. Ping pong delay, really big ping pong delay. Don't know, it's just it's making it sound less like birds, and it's like a sigh effect sound. I like the fact as well that because it's a sample of birds, I've not chosen where to put these hits. It's kind of like a random thing. It just kind of adds to the ambience and overall effect. Yeah, I like that. What else to look at? Okay, here's something that's kind of interesting. It's not an amazing sound, but it just about does the job, what I wanted it to do. So I actually use a technique I've never done before in part of this process. It's kind of interesting. So what I've got here, if I take the gate off this whole thing, there it is. So I've taken a vocal sample. I don't know where it's from. And it sounds like I've stretched it out, and I've done a bit of formant filtering on it. I shut one of these over-the-top compressors on it again to bring out all the different frequencies. a big phaser, reverb, some other stuff. But the important thing is that I've then put this gate on the top. So that's being triggered by this MIDI track with an operator here, with a quick attack, quick release. So yeah, you just choose a sidechain that finds your instrument that you've used. Make sure your instrument is off, because otherwise you'll actually just get it popping through, which obviously you don't particularly want. So that's making this kind of stuttery effect. And again, I kind of liked it because it meant that the melody it was playing was kind of random. It's just whatever's on this stretched out sample, which I've not like timed or anything. It's just there. So when I hit the gate, which I just recorded on the keyboard, it's just whatever's playing at the time. However, I felt like it wasn't quite punchy enough. It wasn't quite coming through the mix enough, and I couldn't fix it with just EQ and compression. I couldn't really work out what to do. So what I did was I took all the delays off and everything, and I resampled some of this. So I recorded it to a new track. So if you don't know how to resample, it's quite easy. You basically just add an audio track. You select resampling here in the drop down, solo the thing that you want to record, and hit record. And then it just records whatever's coming out of that track. So it's almost like another option to freezing or bouncing if you're only doing a short piece of audio. So yeah, I resampled these without the delays and everything, and then once I got that audio file, I right-clicked and I clicked on convert to. Let's find a bit of audio I can do it with. Clicked on convert melody to new MIDI track. So then what Ableton does is it picks out the actual melody and the length of the notes, because I couldn't be able to go through and try and describe all of these different notes. So now I've got a MIDI part which is emulating the actual melody of the original sample, and the gate effect that I've put onto it. And then it's a fairly simple serum patch that's basically noisy sine. I'll take the K off here. So quite kind of clicky, noisy sine sound, and that's in the right pitch, and is coming through under the vocal sound. Yeah, so it's just helping give it some punch. And then as extras, I've got this disperser going on. That was that thing, the weird thing, and another compressor. Okay, so let's maybe have a look at the vocals. I'm not sure if they're particularly interesting. Maybe there's something going on. I'm not sure. It looks like something's happening, so let's have a listen. So I quite like the sound. It sounds fairly simple. It sounds like it's a chorused wide sound. Let's see why I've got so many effects going on. So I think that I've already played around with these and must have resampled them or something, because they weren't quite in time properly and I had to pull them back and forth and stuff. They're still slightly loose because you don't want something like this to be perfect, or I don't. It kind of loses some of the human element. So then I've got a standard chorus going on.
ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਵੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਚਿਹਰੇ
Let's bring these in each.
ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਵੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਵੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ
And then this Aphex vintage exciter, which we've seen before, not particularly strong setting, but it just adds some more high-end excitement.
ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਵੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ
Quite subtle, but definitely does something. And I guess this is a delay rack. There's a hell of a lot of things going on in here. Probably amounting to very little. Let's have a listen.
ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਵੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਚਿਹਰੇ ਵਾਲਿਆ ਵੇਖਦਾ ਏ ਵੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਲੌਂਗ ਬੱਚਾ
Yeah, amounting to very little. Very subtle delay. So what have we got? We've got a ping pong, not a very long ping pong with quite a high filter, bandpass filter. On top of that ping pong, we have another bandpass filter moving, going left and right because it's got the phase activated. So each stereo channel is moving that filter around.
ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਵੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲ ਵੇਂਦਾ ਏ ਚਿਹਰੇ ਵਾਲਿਆ ਵੇਖਦਾ ਏ ਲੌਂਗ ਬੱਚਾ ਨਿਗਾਹ ਮਾਰਦਾ
So for this little fill, a little bit of fun, I wanted to use this sample and pitch it up at the end. I think this is what I did anyway. Yeah, so it's got like a increasing pitch like that, so it's kind of ramping up to the beginning. But the problem was doing that, unless I could have put an auto-tune on it thinking about it, but that might not have worked very well. But the problem was doing that, obviously these are not going to be in key because they're just arbitrary, it's an arbitrary pitch rise. So I then, oh yeah, this is on 30 seconds as well, so it's quantized when it goes up in pitch. So on top of that, I also put a little run of the main lead synth. And that just kind of helped to gel into this little thing. So this, I think, mainly speaks for itself. Again, I've got far too much going on. I'm sure most of it's really superfluous. Let's take it all off. See what it sounds like. The CMX is a really nice widening type chorus effect from Stillwell Audio. So you can see it's got the left and the right. I think that's how it works. So the left is down pitched by 9 cents and the right is up pitched by 10 cents. The left is 7 milliseconds delay and the right is 50 milliseconds delay. It's pretty much how it works, and you've got wide, narrow, dry, wet options. Fairly simple. Okay, there's more interesting stuff going on later. This is one of my favourite of all-time effects, is this, I don't know how you say it, Gerhaus audio, classic auto filter. and it just makes these beautiful bubbling sounds. It's really simple. It's like an LFO synced square wave, kind of like a sample and hold type wave, with a width on it and a resonant bandpass. But it just sounds lovely, and I use it in quite a lot, and I hear it being used quite a lot. And the thing is, it's only 32 bits, so you have to use JBridge. But as soon as you open that up, it sounds great, and the presets are sounding great, so I don't really do much with it. I think I've automated the feedback and the mix. That's about it. Because I didn't want it on the whole time. It's kind of adding interest at certain points. So if you hear it's not in, and then it comes in, as something else drops out probably. Yeah, as the vocal drops out, the autofill comes in. Good old glitch 2, dB glitch. Just adding some glitches, funnily enough. Nothing too interesting there. You can download that, and it's pretty cheap. And it's kind of instant effects, instant results. I've got another 16th gate coming in and out. We've seen how to do this before. So that's a dry weight on the gate, and you can hear it coming in and out. And I think I've automated a send. I made a dedicated return channel for this because I wanted a very specific sound on the delay. So it's a mono delay, and it's very kind of boxy, like telephone kind of sound, which you can achieve with the cabinet plugin. And I've also got a resonant autofill going on the delay. So you can hear that sweeping. And that cabinet is making it mono, and it's also giving it that boxy sound. Okay, I'm just going to show you maybe one or two more things, because I can't show you the whole track because it's stupidly convoluted and big, and this is going to be epically long if I try and do that. So I think the last thing is in the outro is quite a cool effect, very simple but quite cool. So this kind of giggling kids, pixies, whatever, aliens sound. But what I've done is I've taken the original unadulterated sample, which is just some girls giggling, and chucked it in the granulator, which is a Max for Live instrument, and it's absolutely great. I think it's a free one. I think so. Jason Schwartz granulator 2. And it's an awesome grain instrument, granular instrument thing. It's pretty powerful, actually. So the way it works is you drop a sample in, and then you get to scan and choose where it starts playing the sample from. So if I kind of put it here, it's going to start there. If I move it down here, it's going to start there. So you can automate that, is one of the main things to automate. And then there's also the grain size, which is how short a sample time it takes to repeat back on itself. So you can have it really long, so it kind of plays the whole thing, almost. And if you bring it up, So you can hear why that would be a really cool thing to play with. And I think I've always made the attack, but that's not really important. And then this spray, the spread and the spray combined. The spray kind of makes it so that the looping isn't a perfect loop. So you can see these are kind of slightly randomly dispersed. It's not like an exact time thing. It just, I don't know, it makes it sound slightly less mechanical, I guess. So that's on a little bit. And also spread gives it quite a nice 360 pan. So you can hear like there's all kind of scattered parts of it flicking off left and right, which is really nice. And there, again, there's not a lot to it, but it's quite a trippy effect, and you can change the pitch obviously depending where you play on the keyboard. I think that combined with this kind of splashy sound, in my mind anyway, who the fuck knows what everyone else is going to interpret it as, but it sounds like some kind of kids or pixies or something playing around, having a little laugh at the end of the track. And I've done some stretching with the continuous mode on beats mode of the splashes, just to give them a little bit of glitching, a little bit of trippiness, and a bit of grain delay to give them some width as well. I don't think I've used the pitch at all yet, it's just for width. Yeah, so that's fairly mono, and then you bring in the grain delay, and it just brings it out a bit. I think that's it. I think I'll leave you with the final few bars and the outro. Hope you've enjoyed it. Again, sorry it was so insanely rambling. I'm not great at planning. If anyone wants to have any specifics covered or any specific parts of songs, I can try and cater to that. Just let me know, innit? Any more feedback, let me know. Hopefully the sound was a bit better this time. I kind of set it up slightly differently, so fingers crossed you didn't get as much keyboard bashing, and I gave enough sound to actually hear what I was playing, enough time to hear what I was playing. Let me know. Thanks again. See you next month.